watching the It's Her Time podcast with Cody and Jess. All right, in this episode, we're going to do a deep dive because as you know, we released our new product, re-released it really, Herbaby. Pregnancy is one of the most amazing things that we can experience as women. To feel another human being developing inside you is absolutely unreal and it's awesome. And it creates a very special bond between mama and baby. But even the most amazing things in life are not perfect. And there are some things about pregnancy that are very, very unpleasant. Weird stuff can happen to us when we're pregnant, right, girls? Of course, the end result is so worth the crazy changes and the discomfort, but it's still good to know what to expect. Not saying this should be expected while you're expecting, but morning sickness is a very common symptom of pregnancy. Morning sickness is one of those not so pleasant aspects of pregnancy. So today we are going to talk about what we should know about what causes morning sickness and how to reduce your nausea. But before we get into all of this, let's go into a Mixers Girls Say. All right, now it's just me and the Mixers Girls Say, and so I wanted to go through and read some of your little reviews that you put on our podcast. So we are going to read some of your reviews, and if I say your name, I feel like we need to give you some product. I'm going to give you a little discount. You'll just contact our customer service, let them know that I read your review on the podcast, and they will give you a discount code. All right, let's start with 4000 Danny is her name. She says, I love listening to this podcast because it's so uplifting and I learn something new each week. Thank you. You ladies teach other women in ways that are manageable, encouraging, and fun. I absolutely love how we can hear your smiles throughout each podcast. Just shows how full of light you are. Thank you for doing the work you're doing. I have been listening since early 2020 and actually began taking Her Time in January of 2020. Wow. And maybe even earlier. As a broke college student, I had to stop my subscription, but I'm glad to say that I'm back. I have been loving the strawberry lemonade Her Time. Would love to have more mixer mocktail ideas. Thank you so much if your name is Danny. If you recognize this username, thank you so much for leaving us that amazing review. Of course, that feels really good to know that you're loving what we're putting out there. And I'm glad that you can hear the smiles. And now that we're on YouTube, hopefully you can see our smiles as well. So thank you so much. All right, let's just read one more. Okay, this one is from Cop Woman. She says, I love everything about this podcast. Every episode is full of amazing information about so much more than just periods. Cody especially shares her abundance of knowledge about women's hormones and overall health. I can't recommend this podcast enough. I only wish that Mixers was more affordable. It sounds like the perfect product, but I definitely have to save up to afford the monthly price. Totally get that. I'm glad that I was able to read your testimonial or your review so that you can get the discount on your next order. Let me just tell you, girls, that the reason that we are a little higher priced, we try to not be the most expensive products, but the reason we're a little higher priced is because we know that quality matters. We only put the top, most quality ingredients in each of our mixes because we want our mixes to be effective. There's a lot of supplement companies out there that just do a lot of fillers and cheap ingredients, and it shows because you don't feel anything. You don't feel the difference. The reason that women are reporting back and sharing testimonials like that is because Mixer's products work. And so I'm excited because we get to talk all about our newest product, Herbaby.
Mixers is a company made for women by women. Each of our products have been carefully and lovingly crafted to support you in all stages of your life, providing you with the optimal health you deserve. Each ingredient we handpick is 100% all natural, backed by science, and chosen specifically to better your life physically, mentally, and hormonally. Each product empowers your body to take charge of its monthly hormonal shift and flows, empowering you to live life to the fullest. Let Mixers take care of your needs from sunup to sundown, and you take care of the rest. Check us out at mixers.com, Mixhers.
So whether you've had a few babies or you're getting ready to grow your first little miracle, you should be aware of a couple of things. First, I want to address your many questions that you guys send in about morning sickness, because I think this is the thing we deal with the most. So we will definitely talk about that. Also, I want to talk about how important it is to be supporting you and your baby's health with a quality prenatal vitamin. It's absolutely essential. And if you can find the right one, it can even help you avoid or diminish morning sickness, which is such great news, right? If you've been following us over on our Mixer social media, then you know that we're excited about Herbaby because we know we have something that's a little different than what is out there in the market. It's new and it's improved. We've taken our old Herbaby and improved it. So let's talk a little bit about morning sickness, okay? If you're pregnant, it's more than likely that you will experience some degree of morning sickness. More than half of all pregnant women do. You might be one of the lucky mamas who only gets a little bit of that pregnancy nausea, or you may be someone who feels like you're vomiting up your toes every single day. I was the woman that was throwing up her guts during my entire pregnancies, both pregnancies from month 1 to the last month of all. So I feel for you mamas out there that are feeling so terrible. And that's also why I've been so motivated to find out more about why this happens to some women and then not to others, and to learn more about what causes morning sickness in the first place and if it's possible to relieve it. So we're going to go into that first. We're going to talk about what causes morning sickness. All right, to start off, I do want to let you know that morning sickness is not a sign that something's terribly wrong. That the urge to puke up your last meal is one of the many signs of a healthy pregnancy. And I know that sounds so weird. When the scent of your husband's or your coworker's food sends you running to the bathroom, it actually means that your body is producing the hormone that your baby needs to grow properly. So some biologists even suggest that morning sickness is an evolutionary adaptation to protect the baby. Pretty cool, but also, I know, not fun at all. It's thought that the female body adapted to experience morning sickness because it helps the body to then expel foods that may still contain harmful toxins that could damage the fetus during its most vulnerable developmental period. So even though it's unpleasant, morning sickness is ultimately a positive thing, although it doesn't feel like it at all, and I get it. But again, back to my question, why do some women only get it a little bit and others like me really struggle their whole pregnancies? So let's talk about what are some of the main causes of morning sickness that we can actually control a little bit. So first thing to learn is that women who are more estrogen dominant, which I know we talk a lot about on this podcast, when they become pregnant, if they are estrogen dominant, they are more likely to experience morning sickness. So let's talk about why that's the case. There are so many women who are estrogen dominant because they are experiencing compromised liver function, and that is affecting their ability to methylate. And we're going to talk a little bit more on that in a minute, but it also messes with their ability to process used estrogen. Okay. See, our liver, what it does is it plays a huge role in detoxifying our used estrogen. So if your liver function is compromised, then you won't be able to remove the used estrogen while your body is creating more estrogen, and the old estrogen then is just being recirculated back into our system, and it's creating this hormone imbalance of estrogen dominance. So to avoid this root cause of morning sickness, we really need to love up on our liver and help it to function optimally. This is where her time comes in to help. This is where so many of you guys have seen such great results like I just read about, because it supports healthy methylation and estrogen detoxification in the liver and beyond all of the detoxification pathways. All right, let's talk about another root cause of morning sickness, and that is just pregnancy hormones. I know we can blame everything on hormones, but you guys have heard of HCG. HCG is often referred to as the pregnancy hormone. Its rise is actually one of the earliest signs that we've got a bun in the oven, right? So unfortunately, since hormones are primarily to blame for you feeling nauseous, there's not really a whole lot we can do to prevent the rise of HCG if you are pregnant. And so you may not be able to completely stop your symptoms of morning sickness from occurring, but there are definitely ways that we can do things to help things out. So there are some things that we can eat and things that we can drink, for instance, that can help to reduce nausea. So if you're experiencing that persistent nausea, not just in the morning, right? Why do they call it morning sickness? There are actually a few types of foods and drinks that you may want to avoid. And then there are some good dietary choices that you could make to help minimize your symptoms, mainly with eating bland foods. So let's start first with the bad, okay? So these are the foods that I think are best to avoid because any pregnant woman with nausea can probably minimize symptoms by avoiding the following trigger foods. And so these trigger foods are things like spicy foods. So if you love Indian food, for instance, you might need to take a break on that Indian food for a while. But things like onion and garlic and even caffeine. So watch what you're drinking, okay? And you also may find that your nausea triggers aren't on the list that I just mentioned. So if they aren't, just keep track of what causes you to feel sick to your stomach and then try to stay clear of those foods until your morning sickness symptoms subside. All right, the foods that I do think are so helpful and that you should add into your diet are the following. So, because there are foods that are triggering that we should avoid, but there are also some helpful foods and vitamins actually that we get from the foods that you may want to consume as morning sickness remedies. And they include things like you've probably heard about, like saltine crackers. They taste bland and they contain sodium, which can help correct electrolyte imbalances. But also things like ginger tea or ginger ale or chamomile and even her hydration. Especially if you can sip it throughout the day, what it can do is it can help you to avoid dehydration and it can make sure that you maintain electrolyte balance. But also things that are easy to digest, like soups and broths and other teas like peppermint tea especially, or even just plain old toast. Generally, your safest bet is to avoid avoiding persistent vomiting and just nausea is to just try to slow things down and eat the foods that are kind of more bland and that don't feel heavy in your stomach because very flavorful foods are more likely to make you feel sick. And they're also not that fun to have come back up, if you know what I mean. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about what vitamins are helpful because it's so important that we don't forget to take a prenatal vitamin throughout pregnancy. Good nutrition, especially getting enough of that sufficient amount of vitamin B6, can help you avoid extreme morning sickness. Plus, it's so important to supplement. You need to fill in those nutrient gaps because eating for two just isn't enough. And as you know, our diets are so lacking in all of the essential nutrients that you and the baby need. So when you usually hear about eating for two, I know a lot of times we think about the calories, right? And how much we're eating and the energy that we're taking in. But instead, I want you to focus on the nutrients, okay? Because it's worth noting that some nutrients like vitamin D and folate and choline and iron are more tricky to get in enough of just from our diets. Supplementation can help support some of these nutrient needs, which is why taking a prenatal multivitamin as early as possible, is ideal. I'm so excited to tell you girls that Herbaby helps fill the gaps in a woman's diet with the micronutrients necessary to support a healthy pregnancy. So, what do we look for in a prenatal vitamin? And when we were creating Herbaby, these were the things that we wanted to make sure it covered. The first one was neural tube support. And the nutrients that we need for that is folate, choline. And what these two nutrients do is they help support neural tube development, which is so important. The other thing is to help support brain health. Okay, this is where vitamin A comes in the form of beta carotene, but also B vitamins, vitamins E, C, and K, choline, and folate. And all of these nutrients are really great at supporting fetal brain development. The other thing, and this is for both baby and mama, because you can lose a lot of blood, especially during delivery, it's important to have ingredients or nutrients that help to build your blood up. So things like iron, folate, vitamin B12, all of these things help to contribute to red blood cell formation. All right. The other thing is also you're building the bones. Okay. And if you don't have the nutrients available, then the baby will actually leach some of these nutrients from you. And one of the things we see a lot is calcium deficiency and also calcium helper nutrients like vitamin D and K and magnesium, because all of these are necessary in order to maintain bone health. The other thing that makes, I think, us stand apart is that we also included methylated folate. This is where I get to be a proud mama of Herbaby because we specifically chose methylated folate over folic acid, like you see in most prenatal vitamins. And the reason why is because folic acid is not naturally found in nature or in the body. In fact, it was introduced to our diet through the mandatory folic acid fortification of grain products in 1998. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit of why that happened. So back in the day, we used to grow our gardens and we would eat, a lot of natural foods. We would get all of the fruits and vegetables that we grew into our diet. And then, we had this little revolutionary time in our country, and, the Western world where we started being able to mass produce food products. And so we had more manufactured food or processed foods available to us. Now, what they started noticing is that with this amount of time, after about 10 years, a decade of this kind of eating, we started noticing that there were a lot of more like birth defects and like problems with spina bifida and things like that, as an example. And so what they did, these scientists realized that there was a connection between the amount of folate women were getting before they were eating the processed foods as opposed to when they were eating from their gardens to now. So they decided that folate is really what's important. And we all know that folate is very important. And the way to remember folate is like foliage, right? And so it means like leafy greens. And we can get it from other sources as well, but that's one of the best ways to do it. So they went to work in the science lab and they created folic acid. And folic acid is the synthetic form of folate. And they added it to foods. They've added it to all of these prenatals. So now the possible harm that all of this folic acid is doing now, and what we're realizing is that it's very hard to process out, especially for us women who deal with a certain gene mutation, which we're going to talk more about in a minute. But it started building up in the system and it started to compromise liver function. And they started noticing that actually this buildup of folic acid was also contributing to birth defects and how the fetus was developing. So it's really important, for us to understand, how folic acid is converted in the body. And this is where I'm going to talk about that gene mutation. So when we consume folic acid, it has to be converted to the active form of folate so that our bodies can use it. And this process is called the 5-MTHF. And that's where some people can run into problems because up to half of all the adults have a genetic variation called MTHFR gene mutation. And that makes it difficult to efficiently convert folic acid specifically, which means that in addition to the genetic issues surrounding folic acid, those with either excess intake of folic acid or the genetic variation can be prone to excess of unconverted folic acid in their bodies. Okay, so this causes a problem with the developing fetus. It's interesting though that all of the 5 best-selling prenatal multivitamins that are out there all use the synthetic form of folic acid. I just feel like there's not enough information and knowledge out there currently. Herbaby uses methylated folate, which is in the pre-methylated form, so that the liver, when it comes to folic acid and estrogen, can use it and then lose it as it's designed to do. This is so much better for mom and baby and is essential when you are looking into a prenatal vitamin. We also wanted to provide more than just the key nutrients that are needed for healthy pregnancies. We also wanted to add a digestive and a soothing blend to Herbaby. So we added things like chicory root and acacia gum and chamomile. Higher maternal dietary fiber intakes during pregnancy can actually help with appropriate gestational weight gain, and it can reduce gestational glucose intolerance and hypertensive disorders, and it can prevent constipation, which I know is so common, and it can influence gut bacteria diversity. And all of this is so beneficial for a healthy pregnancy and helps mom to feel so much better. Now, chamomile has been valued as a digestive relaxant and has been used to treat various gastrointestinal disturbances, including things that are often associated with pregnancy, things that we think are normal because they're so common, but they aren't, and we shouldn't have to be dealing with them. There are things like flatulence and indigestion, diarrhea, morning sickness, motion sickness, nausea and vomiting, and all of those things that, can be helped with the ingredient of chamomile. So what I recommend is that women, all of you that are about to conceive or thinking about it, that you should start taking Herbaby a few months before becoming pregnant. I like to say, take one daily when you're thinking, trying, and when it's time. Because most women don't find out that they are pregnant until they are around 4 to 7 weeks along, which is past the first 28 days. And in the first 28 days, that's when the baby's organs are rapidly forming. So you can feel good knowing that Herbaby is an excellent source of 20 vitamins and minerals. It's a good source of choline, and choline, what it does is it helps a baby's brain and spinal cord develop properly, and it protects a baby against neural tube defects. Also, it's a good source of magnesium. Now, magnesium reduces the risk of preeclampsia, stillbirth, low birth weight, and fetal growth restriction. It's also a great source of potassium. Getting enough potassium during a pregnancy is so important because it helps to maintain the balance of fluids and electrolytes in your body cells. Also, we talked about this, but I'm going to mention it again because it's so unique for Herbaby, is that it contains methylated folate. Using methylated folate helps ensure that women with the genetic defect absorb the right amount of folate to prepare for pregnancy. The formation of the neural tube occurs very early in pregnancy, so the most critical time to take methylated folate is while trying to conceive and then during that early part of pregnancy. We also have a methylated form of B12 in Herbaby, which is important for maintaining the health of your nervous system, but it's also believed that when combined with methylated folate during pregnancy, it can help to prevent spina bifida and other spinal and central nervous system birth defects in your baby as well. Also, we're really proud to say that we have no artificial flavors. Herbaby contains no artificial sweeteners and no added sugars. And that is something important because we don't want to be putting junk into your body because what you eat, your baby eats. All right, let's talk a little bit more about morning sickness because this is what questions I get most of all. Can morning sickness be prevented? You may not be able to prevent morning sickness during your pregnancy completely, like we've talked about, but paying attention to the things that we have talked about so far can help so much. I also want to share, though, a few more tips to relieve morning sickness before it even starts, okay? The first thing, you want to try really hard to eat nutritious meals without too much flavor, remember bland, and reduce your portion sizes. You're more likely to keep food down if you don't eat large meals, okay? Another thing to really focus on is staying hydrated by drinking plenty of water. And if you have a hard time keeping plain water down, try flavoring it with a little bit of honey, or again, her hydration is amazing and can help so much to keep you hydrated. Also, the things you're wearing can matter. So try to wear loose clothing that doesn't restrict your belly. I know maternity pants are kind of like not the cutest thing ever, but they have stretchy belly bands, and that feels so amazing when we are pregnant. Again, you want to try to avoid the spicy food and any smells that trigger. And it can be different for all of us, right? Anything that causes us to feel sick to our stomach, avoid. You also want to stay away from monitors and lights that flicker rapidly. Have you ever had anybody tell you that? The reason is that rapidly flickering lights can cause some women to feel motion sickness. So you want to try to avoid those. Also, make sure that you take your vitamins and supplements that are safe to take during pregnancy, such as Herbaby. Some nutrients found in pregnancy supplements, especially a vitamin B6 supplement, can reduce the symptoms of morning sickness. Another thing that is so great is the importance of staying active. You may not feel like exercising when you're focused on keeping your food down, but regular exercise is essential for optimal health throughout your pregnancy. So it's okay though if like vigorous exercise makes you feel sick. Just think simple, just simple strolls around the neighborhood, a little yoga and stretching. Just move your body and stay active because it can definitely help. Also, sleep. So important. You want to get as much sleep as your body needs. You're going to notice that you're much more tired during pregnancy. This is so normal. So don't fight the urge to take power naps during the day. If you're struggling to get adequate sleep, you can try doing things like yoga or meditating before bed. But I will recommend that you never take sleeping pills because they are very damaging to the developing fetus unless they're prescribed by your OBGYN. So you can tell your doctor if you've developed acid reflux symptoms during pregnancy. Acid reflux is a really common contributor to severe morning sickness symptoms and can be caused by a poor supply of digestive acids needed to break down and help us to digest our food. Some things that can help with this is adding more like digestive enzymes into your supplement routine. So Her Greens, just so you know, has 5 different digestive enzymes that can support healthy digestion. So important because what we eat, we need to be able to break down. And it's really important that you make sure you chew your food really well because there's not any teeth in the stomach or beyond the mouth, right? Another helpful tip is to also avoid drinking fluids either 30 minutes before or 30 minutes after a meal, because what that does is that liquid actually dilutes your digestive acids. And we don't want to do that. A lot of antacids that are out there that when women are feeling like they have heartburn, they'll go to the store, they'll take an antacid thinking that diluting that acid is going to help them to feel better. But actually, it's making it so you're less able to digest your food. So it's actually not supporting your digestive health. It's better to increase the acid in your stomach by doing the digestive enzymes. I also like adding a little bit of lemon in my water, and as well as like apple cider vinegar and things like that. That helps a lot. All right. So one thing that helped me so much in my pregnancies was drinking stomach settling teas, things like peppermint and ginger tea. And you also may want to add some slices of raw ginger to your water each day. I love doing that still, even though I'm not pregnant. It can really be a quick way to relieve nausea. I love ginger. In fact, I wanted to add it to Herbaby so bad. I tried to get it into the formula, but some women don't love the taste. So we decided to leave it out. But I'm telling you, ginger is Mother Nature's anti-nausea medicine. So if you like ginger, add it to your water or add it to your Herbaby, and it will help a lot too. It'll just add to the benefits of Herbaby. You may discover that some of these tips work better for you than others. So just feel free, create your own customized list once you've determined what works for your morning sickness. You may also find that cold foods, such as things like are feeling refreshing, like popsicles or even Jell-O, things like that, these are also really good at quelling your nausea before it gets too bad. So just kind of pay attention, whatever works for you, and just be sure to keep plenty of those types of foods in your house or in your purse so that they're available when you need them. The primary mission of Mixers is to help every woman feel her best throughout pregnancy and beyond. And we accomplish this goal by formulating highly researched, quality products designed to promote health in the female body. But we don't stop there. We also have compiled and released valuable information about women's bodies and hormones and menstrual cycles and sexual desires. We talk about all the things. So I want to encourage you to continue listening to these podcast episodes, but also feel free to check out our Mixers resources on our website. We have a blog that you can refer to where we talk about all of these things. And also, we always love good questions, so send them our way. There's lots of different ways that we can continue learning about these topics and what we can do to maintain proper balance in all of these different areas of our life. I love having these kinds of conversations with you and hearing from you about how learning this stuff has changed your health and your life. It's so exciting. I can't tell you how much I love reading all of this. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning into another episode of the It's Her Time podcast and joining me and learning about the things that help us to enhance our health and our wellness and our life, right? I look forward to these episodes every single week. And I wanted to mention that we love continuing these conversations together as a community. And so I've talked about this, but it's been a while. Have you joined our Mixers Girl community? I'd love to have you join us because it's a place where you can then ask questions, or you can tell your story, you can meet other friends, and you can also be in the know about events and upcoming fun things that are happening with Mixers. It's so easy. It's free. You just join by visiting our website. You can go to www.mixers.com. Remember, Mixers is Mixhers. And you can go to the top right-hand side of the page and you'll see community. Just click on there and that's where you join. It's so easy, but I'll also put a link in our show notes so that you can go and easily click and join our Mixers Girl community as well. All right, ladies, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next episode, we will have a happy and we will have a healthy week, and I cannot wait. Just so you know, new episodes come out every single Tuesday, and I look forward to them each and every time. Make sure you're subscribing so that you never miss an episode, and make sure that you share this episode with a girl in your life because sharing is caring. All right, bye-bye.